Hello there, everybody. This is Glenn Wilkinson, and today's video is going to be basically me drawing an oil pastel drawing, which I've just finished fairly recently. And it's an oil pastel drawing of pipes, lots of pipes. Yeah, and we're also going to feature some other random footage as well. So what you can see here is just me sort of, what I decided to do before I kind of got right into it was I just decided to do sort of like a, just a basic kind of perspective grid type thing. Camera ran out of battery while I was drawing that, so I didn't film the whole of that process, but yeah, I just drew a little kind of perspective grid thing just to free myself up for when I actually started drawing. Yeah, I think having this perspective grid kind of drawn out already kind of, loosened us up a bit when I actually finally started drawing the pipes. Because I wasn't having to, I was wanting to kind of keep the drawings of the pipes fairly loose, but I still wanted to have that 3D feel, so, I decided to just do a kind of perspective grid beforehand and then just kind of sketch in the pipes, not worrying about the perspective too much, which is what I did. And now you can see me colouring the pipes in, starting to, with Sennelier Oil Pastels, which are my favourite type of oil pastels, and like, whenever I've seen people go on about Sennelier Oil Pastels on like YouTube and stuff, they tend to just go on about how expensive they are, but in relation to oil pastels, because oil pastels tend to be fairly cheap. Yeah, Sennelier oil pastels are quite expensive compared to other oil pastels, but compared to like other art supplies, like oil paints or definitely compared to things like alcohol markers, like Copic markers and things like that. The Sennelier oil pastels aren't really that expensive, really. You can get a pack of like 40 Sennelier oil pastels for about 20 quid if you shop around. Not only that, but the Sennelier Oil Pastels are all replaceable. You know, you can buy them all individually, and each oil pastel costs about £1.20 as an individual oil pastel, and like they last forever. Like honestly, they really last a very, very long time, so you won't have to replace them very often. So the other day it was snowing, and me and my mum went for a long walk in the snow, which was really nice because the snowy landscape is, you know, it's nice. And we saw this gypsy girl who was feeding some horses. There was a big bale of hay in the middle of an enclosure, a kind of circular enclosure, which was about the size of a footprint of a British house, I would say. Not the footprint of an American house, because they're a lot bigger, but about the size of the footprint of a British house. And there was 2 horses in there, and what she was doing was she was tearing the side of the bale open so that the horses could get into the side of the bale, because there was snow on the top of the bale of hay, so the horses couldn't eat the hay from the top because of the snow, so she was just tearing it down the side just to make it easier for them. And the enclosure was it was actually a really beautiful enclosure. Actually, the fence was, it was made out of logs, and there was a small stable on one side of it, which was just a really nice piece of homemade architecture. And the gypsy girl started talking to us, and she said that they didn't pay rent for the land that they were using. I think it was just, I got the impression that it was just public land that they had just decided to build their little enclosure on, Now, this will probably split the people watching this down the middle. Half of you watching this will probably start to get very, very angry about that. You'll start to be like, how dare they use land that that doesn't belong to them according to the laws of Westminster or whatever, or whatever. How dare they use that land to bring up their horses? Those horses should have to work in a supermarket like everybody else, or something like that. Whereas the other half of you will probably be more, you probably react to it more in the way that I reacted to it, which was just to be like, good for them, good for them building that there, it's not as if the land was actually being used for anything, so building a nice enclosure for horses and bringing up some horses there it's as good a use of that land as any, and it did get me thinking a little bit about British history, something that we don't really learn that much in the history books is before 1760, the majority of the land in the British Isles was what you would refer to as commons. And basically, the commons, they weren't private land, but they weren't state-controlled land either. They were neither of those things. They were just land, and it was communal land that was managed by the community, So if you were living in a community, Oh, there's the enclosure, by the way, up ahead. If you were living in a community, you would have like just a field where everyone in the community would all collectively keep their cattle and horses and things all in one field, and it didn't belong to anyone. It was just like a communal field that kind of belonged to everyone, and that was called commons. But in between 1760 and about 1820, this process called enclosure happened, which meant that the commons were all taken over by powerful people and became the property of powerful landowners. And this is kind of one of the things that began the Industrial Revolution, because all of the different groups of people who lived and worked on those commons all moved into the cities to work in factories and manufacturing, etc. And there's a very loud motorbike in the background. And yeah, that's a very recent thing which has happened. So like, I don't know, I'm not trying to make any specific kind of point, but I just think like, before you kind of go and start judging, gypsies or whatever, I just think it's worth thinking about the fact that that's our history, like the kind of current way of thinking about land ownership is fairly recent. It's not that old. It's just something worth thinking about anyway. Yeah. I used to use oil pastels pretty much exclusively. Like it was pretty much the only art medium that I ever used. It was like, I mean, and when I say oil pastels, I specifically mean like these oil pastels, like the Sennelier Oil Pastels. Like, I just because I really love the colors, and like I love the way that you can kind of blend them together and mix the colors like on the actual surface that you're drawing on. You don't have to like mix the colors off the page like on a palette like you do with like paints and stuff, and you can really easily like just blend the colors together. I just really like blending and smudging them, and all that kind of thing. I just really, yeah, I really like them. I used to use them, just like I said, like pretty much constantly. So like, when I tell you that they're like, they last a long time, I mean it. But yeah, I mean, I stopped using them for a while because I was curious more about getting into like, like ink and marker pen type drawings and things. And I did like a black and white comic for the 9 Volt anthology. And I just used like, ink pens and like grey Copic markers for that, because that was going to be black and white, which I could have done in oil pastel, don't get me wrong. Like, I've got a lot of grey toned oil pastels and things, and I've done black and white drawings in oil pastels before, but I thought it would be a good excuse at the time for trying out Copic markers a little bit more, because I was curious about the Copic markers. so I decided that those comics being in black and white would be a good excuse to actually make the jump and actually try out some Copic markers. So yeah, so I did, and then I did that, and then I did Inktober, like completed Inktober, using coloured Copic markers, you know, and I got to quite enjoy using Copic markers as well, you know, and then during November and December I had been messing around with oil paints a lot, but you know, over Christmas, you know, I got the usual kind of wintertime blues that a lot of people get, where, you know, was feeling quite unproductive and stuff. So yeah, I just decided to get my own oil pastels out again and start drawing with them. And I did that abstract drawing that you saw in my last video, if you watched my last video. And now I'm doing pipes, doing pictures of pipes. And this one is in the oil pastels, and you know, it's a bit of a rough drawing. I do, you know, I am a person who I'm a person who is unconfident in my drawing ability. I don't consider myself to be like a very, very good artist from the point of view of drawing ability, and like even from the other, even based on the other things that you would judge an artist about that isn't drawing ability, I still think I'm kind of in a student phase. I think I'm learning. To do art as I go, and hopefully I'll get better in every way you can get better, both in drawing ability and just depth that you can put into your work, you know. That's what I hope, that I can just improve in every single possible way. But for now, yeah, I quite enjoyed drawing this. Here's a kind of a bit of a dirty drawing of some pipes for you there. Yeah, and you know, I want to thank you all for watching this video. You know, I love you guys. Thank you very much. And gonna kind of, you know, ask you for the usual, you know, cringy, the usual cringy things that cringy YouTubers tend to ask you for, you know. No offense to any other YouTubers, I just mean I feel kind of cringy when I do this, but you know, it'd be cool if you you know, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, etc., etc. You know, it all helps the algorithm. And thanks for watching. And I love you all. And well, is that correct? I love you all. That's a bit extreme, isn't it? Well, in a sense, I do. You know, you're all humans. You know, I like humans. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.